What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
And I'm Jason.
And you are listening to Liquid Carnage. Happy Cardinals victory week. I'm just going to come out and say it. You got to go to LA. You got to go to the Palace at SoFi, hoping your boys were gonna bring it, and they got swept away by the Red Sea.
Scott, I know we're not going to talk about this as a topic, but I do have to talk to you about this stadium where the Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers play at.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's open air, so everything is exposed to the outside. There's no walls
waft through on any given day.
Yeah. Now it's Inglewood, so you're outside of the city. You're kind of south of Los Angeles, so it's not as bad. It is in Inglewood, California, so it's a little bit south. It's closer to the airport.
It's always up to no good.
Inglewood, that's right. So first thing is that. Second of all, they have 7 stories of seating, 7 sections that go all the way up into like the nosebleeds of the nosebleeds. But there's not a bad seat in the place because we were all around. We were on the 5th floor, the 5th level, and our seats were beautiful seats. Third of all, they served their beer in aluminum cups.
Oh.
So it's chilled in the aluminum cup for a lot longer than it would be in just a plastic
or a paper cup.
Yeah. Now, I did find it quite lame, though, that some of the food options were vegan and, kale and ginger salad.
Hey, LA is where the beautiful people are, man. If you want to stay beautiful, you got to eat the kale and the ginger salads.
Now, I will say this, that there was, while there were some Cardinal fans at the game, most people were in Rams gear. So the home field advantage is definitely better in Los Angeles than it is in Arizona. That being said, from start to finish, that game there was never a doubt of that game of the Cardinals winning. After like the first 3 and out that they had, there was never a doubt after that. I mean, the Rams just looked like they were being outplayed everywhere, every part. It was a good game for the Cardinals, but we had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
That's good. I watch my games traditionally at Chili's, and I have a tradition now I've started where every time there's a touchdown, I get a beer. And I was a little worried that I was going to be kind of thirsty yesterday. And I will openly admit I felt no pain at halftime. And I made one comment to the bartender. I was like, all right, let's see if we get one more at the half. That way I'm not thirsty. And he heard, get me one more for the half so I'm not thirsty. So instead of having 4, I was able to have 5 beers before halftime, and we didn't score another touchdown after that, thank God. So I was able to get home safely. But what a great game. It was fun. It was a good week. Good week for football. Beautiful weather. Fall is in the
the weather was perfect. And I do suggest that if you have a chance to go to the stadium, it is a marvelous stadium. It's beautiful.
Well, maybe one of these years we can take in a Liquid Carnage game together and go check out some of these stadiums around the country. I know it'd be a lot of fun.
That's a great idea. Actually, we should do that.
I've talked to the EP about this. Him living up in Denver. Arizona does play up in Denver next year, and I do think it would be fun for a road trip or a quick flight up to the Mile High City and to go see that game next fall or even maybe next winter, depending on when it is.
Well, and I am actually going to see Denver Dean, Pete, in Denver next week. So I will be in Denver next week for our recording. So,
oh wow,
so I'll be partying with him next week.
Good for you, man. There's just a lot of life going on, a lot of activities. Life is getting back to normal.
And I know.
In spite of the world going on, life is getting back to normal. And it turns out we are recording on a Monday. This would probably be called the Blackest Monday of 2021 because I don't know if anyone realized it. Hopefully people did, but social media was down today. The Facebook and the Instagram were down for hours. I think up to 7 hours today.
Okay, so I was not aware of it because I don't get on those two particular sites, but Noreen does and Sam does, and both of them were complaining that wow, this is really strange. I can't see any of the pictures that we downloaded from the game, because she wanted to pull them up to look at them again, and
Yeah.
she couldn't do it. She goes, yeah, something's wrong, I don't know what's going on. And then sure enough, right when she said that, CNN gave her an alert saying that Facebook and Instagram were both down.
Yeah.
And I thought, holy crap, what are these people going to do? Everyone's freaking out.
The day the earth stood still, the Monday, people had no choice but to actually work. It was crazy. No, it's you realize in a day like today how much people rely on swiping apps, scrolling apps to kill time or let their mind go numb. And I'm sorry, man, but I didn't miss it at all. I found myself, it's like, all right, well, I have a few extra minutes. I can do this. I can do that. I actually got ahead of the game on a Monday instead of just, dragging it out.
Well, and I mean, I personally don't get on it for personal reasons. Just I just don't enjoy it that much to care what people are thinking or saying. But I did ask. It's so funny because earlier in the weekend, we were talking about how everyone finds out about all the politicians and what all the fake news that's going on. They get it from social media.
Yeah.
And one of my comments was, the government has the ability to stop this right now if they wanted to. They could pass a law. How long do you think it would take you, Sam, to get over the itch of having to be on Facebook or Instagram? And he and I both agreed maybe the first day people would struggle, maybe first day or 2 days. But after that, they'd find something else to do, man. They would move past it.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. And I will tip my hat to Twitter. Twitter saved the day because it totally leaned into being the only working social media out there. And even they were having phones like, hey, what's up, Facebook and Instagram users? We're Twitter. Welcome to us. If you need help figuring out how to work us, feel free to ask. And I use Twitter for a lot of things. I get sports updates on that, some news updates, and whatnot. And I don't really interact with a lot of people on it because I don't like the way you interact with people on it. But to me, it's a more useful form of social media if you are aware of how to use it. So I think maybe Twitter today might have picked up a few more users just in case this ever happens again. But to me, it's a great source of researching different news stories and news platforms.
Yeah, the problem I do have with Twitter is it does seem like they are very quick to shut people down if whatever is said is not in agreement to their policies.
I don't know if they're quick to do that, more as once you finally hit a breaking point of those violations being repeatedly pushed and pushed and pushed, and to where it still is a private company, to where they can say, hey, we don't owe anybody anything. You're not on here anymore. And I think that's what people tend to forget about this, and I know there's a certain Cheeto-colored ex commander in chief that is petitioning to get his Twitter account back, and I hope he doesn't get it, to be honest with you, because I think the world became a darker, scarier place when he was allowed to speak his mind and say whatever he wanted to, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part that a lot of people have is that, do we have First Amendment speech, free speech, or do we not? Because if we don't, then why are we not stopping news agencies from saying whatever they want to say? And why are we not stopping magazines from saying whatever they want to say? Why does Twitter or any of them, I guess, why do they get to dictate who can speak and what gets spoken, and other?
And I don't think it's them.
Others don't.
I don't think it's them dictating who can and who can't. It's them dictating, this is our site, our rules. If you can't abide by our rules, you can practice free speech, but you're not going to practice it here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Well, and I remember it was so funny because I remember right after he was kind of eliminated, there was all this talk that he was going to start the new social media platform, and that was going to be the conservative voice. And I guess they tried to open it, and or did they? Maybe they didn't even try to open it.
I
But
forget what it's called.
I've not seen anything on it. So that's the other problem is that Twitter, Facebook, they do kind of have a monopoly
Well,
of.
no, it was open. I forget what the hell it was called because I saw a lot of people I knew were going there, quote unquote,
Yeah.
until it got hacked because the security was so poor on it.
Oh, it did
Uh,
get hacked. Oh, jeez.
From what I understand, the Russians were able to get in there fairly quickly. So
So yeah.
they're
So I
retooling
mean,
it. It might come back, but I doubt it.
yeah, but even that. So think about this: how many people were really upset when Twitter blocked the former president, and they just said, "I'm not going. I'm not using Twitter anymore. I'm
Right?
not using it." They didn't die. People, are so afraid of what would you do without social media.
Yeah,
Probably a
but
lot.
a lot of those people weren't on Twitter to begin with anyway. They didn't even know what he was tweeting unless their news agency posted it for them
Yeah,
on the news. And
yeah,
and that's the problem. It's some of these social media platforms give people the credence to, and I'll just call it a form of liquid courage to get out there and say what they think they're allowed to say without getting punched in the mouth. And getting banned from those sites is basically their version of punching in the mouth, saying you to shut the fuck up. And
Do you? I mean,
it's exhausting.
well, I also thought too it was very interesting that that earlier this year the Republican congressman who is like the top Republican in the Congress had
Yeah.
threatened basically, hey, social media, you be careful because if we do take the majority back, we're coming after you guys. So what are the consequences of this kind of action by a private company? None, unless the government comes after you. Then there's consequences to whatever you do and however you
Yeah,
do it.
there's quote unquote consequences, but really, what are they going to do? You have rules, you have a board of directors, you have rights, and they can't come and take your rights away just because they don't agree with it or they interpret it differently than what its intent is. And that's what the big thing is. It's so much of our government is, if you don't be nice to us, we're going to come after you for political reasons on every platform, and both sides of them do this. And it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And that's just right now. It's a hot button issue. I don't think that's going to happen at all, to be honest with you.
Well, I guess it really depends on who. They're already talking that once the Republicans take control in 2022, they're going to impeach Joe Biden.
Sure.
They've already talked about how they're going to impeach him, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is exactly what everyone's afraid of is tit for tat retribution and stuff
Yeah.
like
Well,
that.
that's
So
that's government now. It doesn't matter who's in charge. If you have the majority and the leader is not the leader of your party, it's the other party, then they're going to get impeached. That's just the way it is, and
so,
it's unfortunate.
so let me ask you this: is there a government responsibility to protect companies like Facebook from a cyber attack like they just had, where it shut their whole system down? I mean, should the government play a role in protecting a private company from being hacked?
I'm going to say no. I think
Okay.
it's up to that company and that company's responsibility to its users, because once you start getting the government involved with it, I believe that would be called what was it? Maybe some might call it communism, since they're acting like North Korea with their social media. Some might call it fascism. Some might call it socialism. Who knows? If your party doesn't agree with it, or you don't think your party's going to agree, they're going to call it something crazy.
Yeah, like I mean, they I feel like that the government would want to be somewhat responsible for cybersecurity. Like when they shut down that pipeline, when they
Yeah.
had that hack, that's impacting the citizens of the United States. I would think that the government would want to play a role in that. However, that is a private company. That company is a private company, and while the impact is to the majority of Americans as a whole, it kind of leads into that. Well, should the government get involved with
it,
protecting
it becomes a
that?
slippery slope at that point, because you're right. Once they get involved with one, why aren't they getting involved with everybody that's got these issues?
Right,
And that
right.
becomes a bigger problem down the pipe, and you really have to kind of watch out for those.
The other question I have too is, yeah, obviously it was a disruption for users who weren't able to get on Facebook. How much money do you think advertisers lost or
I'm not.
Facebook lost
I,
because it was down for 8 hours?
I'm not sure how much they lost, but I did read the article shortly before we jumped on to record that Zuckerberg lost $7 billion today.
How?
Stock
Oh,
and
the stock
and
price came
everything
down.
else.
I
Yeah,
got
and
it.
I
Yeah.
assume that's all tied to the advertisers and whatever else. But you lose $7 billion in a day, it's going to make you rethink what it is you're actually doing.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, don't these big companies, they have a target on them just because of I mean, what is it? Facebook has what, 2.5 billion users,
Mm-hmm.
people on Facebook. Twitter, I don't know how many users are on Twitter, but probably a
12.
similar number.
There's 12 of us are on Twitter.
12. Okay. Well,
There's
in that
12 of
case, it's
us.
not as big a place. So yeah. So for a company like, I mean, for a company like Facebook, the financial consequences of them going down for just 8 hours was probably pretty significant.
Yeah, like I said, the funny stuff I started to read, that if it was coming out, if this is actually verified, it's actually pretty entertaining that the whole system went down and they got locked out of their building. So even the engineers couldn't get in to see what the problem was because their badge access wouldn't work. And there's a certain level of responsibility you have as a tech company to have the highest and high tech security, such as badge access for certain people for certain areas. But at the end of the day, sometimes a good old fashioned lock and key does the job just as well.
I will ask you this question. This is something that I've thought about since that pipeline. Now that it's so prevalent, do you think that companies, I mean, I don't feel bad for a company that gets hacked anymore. It's like, that the threat is out there.
Yeah.
And so if you get hacked when you know that the threat is out there, then part of that is on you. I mean, Facebook, you guys are one of the largest tech companies in the world. How is this possible? Like, how is it possible you just got hacked and shut down for 8 hours?
Yeah, I mean, it just shows the ability of some people out there for their willingness and drive to hack into a company, what they can accomplish, even through some of the strictest security, in the private sector.
Do you worry at all with this, that your information was stolen?
What are they going to do?
Well, I don't
Like,
know. Some people have their financial info or like credit card information on their Facebook page, right?
and that is their problem if they have that. It's I use third parties like Venmo and PayPal, and if those get compromised, yeah, that's an issue. But I don't put any information out there on those sites that haven't already been hacked through other like emails or whatever else. And how many spam emails do you get from shit you've never signed up for? It's just one of
Yeah.
those things. It happens. They find a way to get it if they really want to get it. I mean, as much as you want to hope that all your stuff is safe online, it's not. If anybody really wanted to get in there, any financial institution, they can. It's the way the world works these days.
How long do you think Facebook would have to be down before you would no longer ever get on Facebook again, even if it came back up?
Oh, like a day.
So if Facebook was down for, let's say, 2 weeks, you probably would not get back on again.
No, I'd probably like, all right, fuck it, man. I found other stuff to go do.
Yeah.
I'm out. Good.
Well,
good.
and I mean, I think there's a lot of silent people out there who feel the same way, that, okay, so it was down for 8 hours. I'll go do something else. So, the people that worry that Facebook, oh my gosh, if we didn't have our Facebook, what would we do? I don't think it would be that bad.
Well,
I really
also,
don't. I think it would go over pretty easily and pretty
you
quickly.
have to remember, though, this happened during the workday on a Monday on the 1st of the month. So really, I don't think it phased nearly as many people as it could have had it been a Tuesday night after 7 p.m. or a Sunday morning where there's nothing going on. Had it froze and broke during one of those times where there's a lot of people on there using it, maybe there's a bigger backlash. But I don't think there's nearly as big of a backlash on a Monday morning or afternoon versus some other times that could have been a whole lot worse for it.
Yeah, and I mean, I realize that I'm slightly jaded because I don't get on Facebook, so I don't use it for my news. I don't use it to, you know, look at the history of my friends or anything. I mean, I really I just don't do it very much. And Noreen does, and luckily we were traveling, so while she wasn't able to see the pictures, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, deal breaker, crisis. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I feel good about that. But we both know people who that's their life. I mean, Facebook is their life, and that's where they get their news. That's where they get their information about upcoming events and things going on. So for them, 8 hours might have been like going through withdrawals of heroin or something.
Yeah, that's a very real possibility for a lot of people. I'm sure those who make 6 and 7 figures a year, being social influencers, were very worried about their future employment, had it stayed down there for any longer today, because you can't make those posts about whatever products you're using if you don't have a place to post it.
One of the things that I've always wondered about the influencer because I just don't understand it. Like I've never been the type of person to give so much weight to a complete stranger to
Yeah,
whatever they do to I just don't do that. That's not my thing. But there are so many of these influencers that's exactly what it is. They've got thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of followers that just watch and hang on every word that they make. And it's like, how do these people get that important in someone else's life? I don't get it. I don't
people.
get it.
It's a weird social experiment if you really want to get down to it. I mean, people really find the most random, I guess, people to idolize now. I walk into some offices in my place of employment, and they're younger people, and they start making inside jokes on about certain people they see on the internet, and the people they're watching are internet famous. So like, I don't even know who that is. Do they have a movie or a TV show? Like, no, they just have a channel, and this is what they do, and these are the jokes they make. It's like, that's not even funny at all. But I guess having social media allows 7 billion people on this planet to have access to 7 billion different ideas of what funny is.
That's really a good point. If you think of it from that perspective, if you have a million followers, which is that what a 1 in 7, so 0.0014% of the of the population.
Yeah,
What are we talking about? Oh, you have 0.0014, and yet they make such a big deal. Oh my gosh, they have a million followers. That's crazy.
yeah. But you hear someone that's got a million followers, though, like that's a heavyweight hitter in the social media world. I mean, that's now you have the personal ability to reach out to a million people that all over the world potentially. So your page can really drive some product numbers up for different organizations.
Well, and then you carry that even further. What did Trump have? 80 million people
Something
watch,
like that. Yeah.
80 million followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
So the power of something that he says and the power of something that you or I say, it does make a difference on who gets to keep an account and who doesn't. I mean,
It
80
does.
million people believing something like saying, I want to
But
videotape a
but
dog being
you have to
murdered or something
realize,
like
though, on
that.
Twitter though, it spider webs out. Just because you don't follow them doesn't mean you don't see it, because if someone follows them and replies to it or likes it, it shows up on your timeline too. So you have 80 million people guaranteed to see it if they log on. But if another famous person or somebody you follow sees that post and they like it, or they reply to it or retweet it, now all of a sudden you see it too. So it just spiderwebs to more and more people.
Yeah. Okay. And that's kind of like Facebook though too, right? I mean,
No,
the like you share a video on Facebook and then they share it.
no. I mean, if you share a video on Facebook, I mean, you might have 900 friends, but based on the algorithm, you might only have 50 that actually see your stuff.
Okay.
So they might see it depending on however much other stuff is going on their feed that day too.
Do you see, I mean, in the final minutes of this episode, do you see any changes or what do you think the future of these social media platforms are?
Hopefully they go away.
You think, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Facebook or any of these will go away, but I do wonder if they'll be changed, like something legislatively or socially, things will change. Because I think more and more people are just getting fed up with.
I don't know what you really can do, just because it's still a private business. it's still, even if they're publicly traded, I'm not sure what regulations you can really have on them to slow them down, especially if the people trying to regulate it now have played a part in letting them run amok for so long and spread so much disinformation.
Well, okay, but let's be honest. I mean, more people are aware of the impact that these websites or these social platforms have. And so it's possible that more and more people, if they get bad experiences from a Facebook, per se, they might become like me and say, you know what? I just don't want to get on it. I'm done with it,
Yeah,
and get off of it
that's the
completely.
goal.
And maybe that
Well,
is the
the
impact, is
nice
more
thing
and
is
more
though, there's a
people
lot
get
of
off it.
but there's a lot of younger people now that don't even get on Facebook because they think it's for old people. They get on
Aha!
TikTok and whatever else.
Yeah, right.
So as long as it's
Exactly.
not, and that'll be a fad at some point, like Facebook is, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just going to be the evolution of what some of these the social media companies do. Either you get with it or you die, and each social media company's found a different way to adapt what TikTok's doing. They're just short
Well, and
videos, so
yeah, well,
Instagram has
and
it.
isn't that what'll happen is that these big companies will just buy out other up and comers?
Yeah,
You know, if you want to be on TikTok, then Facebook will own you. If you want to be on any of these other ones, then they'll just buy you out.
that's what happened to
And
MySpace.
yeah, I mean, MySpace was the big thing, and now does anyone use it? I don't even know.
No, now it's for Now it's for up and coming artists. It's owned by Justin Timberlake now.
Oh, he bought it?
Yeah, years ago. It's for
Oh, I
recording
didn't know
artists.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
So,
So
so
if
I have a
so,
feeling that what happened today, it probably didn't really have a major blip, that won't be recuperated in the next day or two. But
yeah,
I'm sure it had a blip. I'm
it'll
sure
be
there
fine.
was a
It'll be
financial
fine by
blip.
7 p.m. tonight, Arizona time. I guarantee it. So if you're able to share your experiences on social media, good, bad, or ugly, or willing to say that you would get off social media given the opportunity, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter if they're up. All at Liquid Carnage. If you want to hit up our EP Tom in Denver for some fun fall places to have brunch on the weekends, hit him up on Instagram and Twitter at liquid_EP.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a scare for some of the people that probably like. I know that you and I are not as big on Facebook, but there's a lot of people who are very big on Facebook. So I'm sure they had a little butt tightening.
Yeah, and
Oh, what's going on, man?
And I get on it and I'll scroll when I've got a few minutes, but it's nothing like, oh shit, all right, if I don't do this now, oh my god, I've got to put this. I've gotten a lot better about just getting away from it. There's a lot more life. Well, there's a lot more going on in life, and it's just not worth it,
Well, and I think that most people would say too that it's a guilty pleasure. It's more of, I just like looking at other people or it's not like, oh my gosh, if I don't have it, I'm just gonna die. Most people, I think, would be like, if Facebook went away tomorrow, within 2 or 3 days, most people would be like,
The world would
okay.
heal. The world would heal
Yeah,
in 2 or 3 days. I'll hold
pretty
on.
quickly.
It's because you have to realize though, with social media, people put out the image they want you to see, not what the reality is. And once you get to that point, you start to realize that's the scenario. It's that they're just showing you what they want you to see, not the reality of their life. Then you start to understand that, you know what, this isn't that great. I don't think I like this as much.
Oh yeah, well, and you're right. I mean, most people put on the happy pictures, and I shouldn't say it. I have read a lot of stuff where people like put a little bit of their dirty laundry out there, which is like,
Yeah.
ixnay, ixnay.
And well, I will always say you should never do that. When someone asks me about it, I will honestly sit here and say secretly, I love seeing that shit because it gives me something to read. And you don't ever want to judge somebody by their social media, but I'll be straight up, man. I judge people on their social media. I see what you're posting. I see what you're saying. That represents you. And if you have bad grammar or or you start sharing stuff that's, borderline fringe conspiracy level, but not my conspiracy level, just like a wholly like weird off the cuff one, I don't dig it, man. I judge, and I judge harshly. And I think I've unfollowed probably half of my friends. And I've lost a lot of respect for people I used to have a lot of respect for because I've watched they've posted on social media, just because I realized they're not the people I thought they were.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do.
If you're willing to share something if you're willing to start sharing stuff that's been debunked time and time again, but you hold it as gospel, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Just my
I
2
do agree.
cents.
Yeah. I understand.
That being said, Jason, take us home.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We do appreciate you. We hope that the Facebook downage was not too much for you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid carnage.